Dinesh D'Souza. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but this is my introduction to him, and I'm on the hunt for some knowledge nuggets. So like Jordan Peterson and Ben Shapiro, hopefully he can further my understanding of many controversial discussions of this day and age. Set that over here. Let's get it popping.
Worldwide exclusive.
After World War II, the white middle class soared to prosperity as a result of bills like the GI Bill. And African Americans who were coming home from war didn't get those benefits simply because they were African American. The U.S. Department of Veteran Affairs denied African Americans access to those benefits simply because of their race. And you are correct in saying that no one today dealt with that particular issue. With that being said, however, there was wealth amassed as a result of those programs that still exists today. And when I think of your example about an individual who works as a janitor and sees people dining in a beautiful cafe walking home from work, I want to ask you, do you think any of that indignation, given certain circumstances, might actually be justified simply because there have been systematic blocks in people's way throughout American history, not ending with slavery, not ending with the Jim Crow laws, not ending, some would say even today, we still have housing discrimination, all of which is to say, you found that during the Cold War era, there was a massive boom in the white middle class's prosperity, and you just didn't have that among African Americans, not because they weren't meritorious, but because they were discriminated against.
So, let me ask, you know, we're in a very smart college. It's worth pursuing a discussion on these points. So there are Americans whose present benefits are due to past advantage. By the way, this past advantage, which is often assumed to continue with the white man, actually goes all the way back to the beginning. The American Indians who were here first, right, had a huge advantage. We presume that they owned the whole country. Now, by the way, let's pause for a moment. How do you get to own a country? If you have Cain and Abel is a shepherd, and Cain is a farmer, and Cain says, okay, I'm not going to put a fence around the whole world. I own it, because I'm the only guy here. You're a shepherd. And my descendants will now inherit the earth, and anybody who shows up is a usurper. Rousseau says that the first guy who puts up a fence and claims he owns something is a con man. So the American Indians came. They happened to be first. They came in a bunch of tribes. The Navajos who got the land took it from the Hopi or the Pueblo. Their law of the jungle was conquest. That's how they got the land. There's a big fight about the Black Hills that I cover in the film. The Sioux who got the Black Hills took it from the Cheyenne. So when we say, oh, give us the land back, are you going to turn around and give it back to the Cheyenne? Oh, no. It's ours. Really? How come you own it forever now? So what I'm getting at here is history is very complicated. Let me give you the example of India so we can look at this at the level of theory. Okay? India was invaded by the British, and earlier by the Afghans, and the Persians, and the Mongols. So you have all these successive invasions, right? Are you actually saying that you believe in a rule of social justice today that says globally, let's look at this as a global rule of justice, I'm going to figure out whose ancestors did what to whom, and I'm going to return goods that were illicitly taken from the beginning to the people who had it originally. Do you believe that that's a viable way to organize our society? Do you believe, if I can ask you a direct question, that you are the beneficiary of white privilege here at Amherst?
What are you going to say?
Yes or no?
Well, yeah, and
Pause.
Okay.
If you are, can I ask you a further question?
Okay, yeah, but I don't just say it in a I don't say it in a self-flagellating and self-aggrandizing way.
Hold on. Okay, go on.
You know what? I really try not to. I'm simply saying that because you asked me. Really, I view the recognition of one's privilege as an impetus to change things. So I don't just say I have white privilege. I try to help those who have not benefited from such privilege.
How? Hold on. Let's pursue this for a moment.
Really?
You say, this is actually very important because there's...
Well, he's shaking in the boots right now, Dinesh. I see what you're doing. I see what you're doing. He's so well versed in his history, and he's so well versed in logic. This student right here has mastered the basic art of 100% emotion, 0% logic. He's thinking off pure emotion, and you know when you're doing a debate or an argument, a discussion, whatever you want to label it as, the person with the emotion, the person that gets involved in that sense, always loses. Always loses. And woo, okay.
There's a psychology here, right?
Well, you see, I'm going to answer your question, but I'm really not trying to attack you. I'm not trying to be provocative. I just find that often, I think the essence of much of this discourse surrounds hypocrisy, and you're trying to demonstrate that I'm a hypocrite. I say I benefit from white privilege, yet I don't actually do anything. But I'm gonna backpedal and say that ultimately I think what the greatest vice is cruelty, and I'm not gonna. I don't want to be hypocritical. So to answer your question, I'll start in high school. I mean, do people want to hear this, or do we?
Educated. Go ahead.
Please give us some facts. What have you done? How are you not taking advantage of?
Look, let me say where I'm going with this, because I think you're.
All right. Well,
too bad.
All which is to say, it's not like I picked anyone out to help based on the color of their skin, but I was a tutor for people who tended to be low income when I was in high school. I suppose that would be one direct answer to your question, because oftentimes disparate educational opportunities are grounded in disparate economic systems, or systems that produce disparate economic outcomes. So that's one way that
you did some tutoring. Okay, you just enhancing the world. You did some tutoring. All right, now
combat it on an
do your
individual
thing, young
level.
man.
All right. Here's what I'm getting with this, okay?
Looks a little nervous.
One of the benefits of a good education of reading people like Nietzsche is you begin to understand how deep the human desire is for moral self-exculpation. Moral self-exculpation. Now, you say, and I didn't say this, you said this, I'm a beneficiary of illicit white privilege. Okay?
Illicit?
Well, isn't all white privilege illicit? Is it deserved?
Well, in this current system, there is legality.
Illicit means immoral.
Okay. Then
immoral white privilege. Yeah. Okay. So then if I were to say to you,
there
are surely many deserving minorities who would like to come to Amherst but have the inherited disadvantage of American history. Therefore, since you are an acknowledged beneficiary of illicit privilege, would you be willing to step aside voluntarily, putting your own moral mouth where your self-proclaimed virtue is, and give your seat, not my seat. I realize you may be super generous with other people's advantages and favor affirmative action, so other white kids who apply to Amherst are turned away to open spaces for minorities. But I'm not talking about you acting out your virtue on them. I'm talking about you acting out your virtue on you. Mm-hmm. Are you willing to give up your illicit seat that you don't deserve here at Amherst to make room for a disadvantaged minority? Yes or no?
Okay, well, let me start here. I don't know how you got on the topic of affirmative action.
By following the logic of your...
No, I never said specifically that I think that race-based affirmative action is the best way to rectify the systems of injustice that...
Why don't you practice it by stepping out? And why don't you go to the registrar tomorrow and tell him you want to withdraw from Amherst?
Oh, this is getting brutal. This is a textbook. Now, y'all know I try to base my life in this as much as possible in the basic instructions before leaving Earth. And love your neighbor as yourself. Love God. Love people. That's the foundation. The 10 Commandments. You guys know what I try to strive for each day. But again, I'm a sinner. Me being a practicing Christian, I admit I need a savior. So this could be wrong. This could be judgmental. I'm sure it is. But this student right here is a textbook liberal, generous with other people's money. He all Monday morning quarterback talking about all these issues. But when it comes down to it, when you got to step up to the plate, when you're in that batter's box and you got to face that pitcher, you got to face that situation, whatever it is, you're not willing to swing. You're not willing to actually try to get on base and actually step aside and let those people come in for the issues that you're arguing for. In this case, it's white privilege, but he doesn't want to step aside and denounce his white privilege. He's just speaking on other people's white privilege. You see what he's doing? He did some tutoring. So, hey, props to him for that, for serving in some sort of way. Hopefully he was more well-versed in the topic he was tutoring on than he is with this debate thing right here. Because Dinesh, this man is owning them right now. And I've watched some Ben Shapiro debates. He's decimated a few icons. But this right here so far, this is a little brutal. Dinesh is taking no prisoners, and I love it because people need this. People need that truth bomb, that just humble pie. And that's what he's eating right now. I like it. I'm going to bring it back now, okay?
Systems of injustice that...
Why don't you practice it by stepping out? And why don't you go to the registrar tomorrow and tell him you want to withdraw from Amherst?
Tell him you got that white privilege. You got to unenroll.
I'm listening.
Think about it.
Go ahead.
Okay, well, I mean... Look, I'm only continuing to engage because you continue to engage with me, and I do want to hear other people's questions. But in response to that, again, what you're trying to demonstrate is that everyone's hypocritical. As someone once said, that we're all dirty up to our arms, right?
We're all sinners.
We're not all perfect. None of us is perfectly morally consistent. Now, I've said absolutely nothing about affirmative action. The fact is that I believe everyone in this room is hypocritical to some degree. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't strive for a more just and equitable system entirely. There have been points in my life in which I have given up some of the privileges with which I have been endowed simply because I realized that it wasn't the right thing to do. At the same time, I think...
Can we get an example? That's what I want. Like, anybody can make these blanket, just open-ended statements. This kid would make a great congressman. Literally, just all talk, saying nothing. All talk, all statements, but no logic behind it. No proof, no fact, no nothing. Just all statements, and that's what politicians do. Now, I'm saying, like, I've voted right, I've voted left, I've been on both sides. I grew up in an extreme liberal household, wasn't raised in the church, had to find my way. This is what I know to be truth. This is my truth. This is my bias. Yes, 100%. Am I open to other people's discussions? Absolutely. That's how we grow. Open-mindedness. That's how we have you could be a complete atheist. I still love you. I still root for you. I still want the best for you. And I pray that we somehow stumble on the same path, because I know only through Jesus can I get to heaven. Only through Jesus can I be saved, because this changed my life. This is my testimony. And why wouldn't I want that for somebody else? Why wouldn't I want to turn them to that? But we can disagree and still be friends. We can disagree and be adults and still have conversation. I understand his point, what he's saying. Like, all of us, to some extent, are hypocrites in certain situations. All of us have sinned, would be a better way of saying it. We're all flawed. You know what I'm saying? We're all imperfect, and that's okay. And we should strive to get better, but we shouldn't talk about and point the finger at all these things and not be willing to take it upon ourselves to make a difference with those things. People say society this, society should do that. Society, you are society, so go ahead, show us. Go ahead, lead by example. Or don't talk about it at all. Zip it, because Dinesh is going to own you. I'm seeing it right here. I see why people recommend him, and I love it.
There have been points in my life in which I have given up some of the privileges with which I have been endowed simply because I realized that it wasn't the right thing to do. At the same time, I think everyone needs to survive, and that we understand that we exist in an imperfect system, and that we have to conduct our business in such a way as to not only adhere to our moral standards, but to the standards imposed upon us by the system in which we live. And I think that we have to be generous to people in their efforts to not be hypocritical and to do their best. But I don't think that we should totally throw away the idea that we shouldn't have those standards at all. So that's my response to you, but I would still like a response to my question regarding the inequity that I talked about with the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs. That is wealth that is passed down, and it's documentable wealth. The same way that the wealth created, or the wealth stolen as a product of slavery, was also documentable wealth. We have numbers that demonstrate precisely how much wealth was stolen, and that's money that in some way could be given back. Now, if we're saying that it's absolutely impossible to give that money back because it's too hard to trace, we'd have to give money to the African tribes, we'd have to give money to people who are no longer exist. That's absolutely fine, but we have to understand that we haven't really come to terms with that injustice that's been perpetrated. And if we are admitting that no one that no one is perfectly entitled to absolutely everything that their ancestors had stolen from them, then we also have to accept that there are people today who benefit from the fact that their parents and grandparents profited from this immoral system. And the way to deal with that is with a social safety net that enables everyone to thrive. I'll leave you there.
This man is saying absolutely nothing. He's literally, it's like watching CNN, just commie news network, just reading off these false narratives, these headlines that sound good at surface level. You don't go any deeper than that. No facts behind it. No. Everybody's looking at the rear view mirror. The reason it was created so small is because you shouldn't be looking back there every 2 seconds. The front windshield is where your peripherals should be, where your focus should be, where that perspective should be. Control what you can now. I'm a quarter black. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure I have ancestors that were slaves. My last name is Gibson. I believe that derived from slavery. Cool. That's my past. It is what it is. It doesn't define who I am today. It doesn't represent my character. Do I think slavery was bad? Absolutely. But slavery was all around the world. Black people sold black people. White people sold black people. It's all over the place. It goes back into the Bible. Like, that doesn't mean it was okay. It's just part of our history, part of humanity. Has it changed? Absolutely. Are we better off now without slavery? 100%. Now, I'm sure in certain parts of the world there's still slavery. But guess what? It's not here. We control what we can control. Period. We shouldn't have to pay for things that our great something did in their mistakes. We're flawed. We wipe the yolk out of your own eye because none of us are going to be perfect. Mistakes have been made. No matter what the pigmentation of your skin is. Focus on what you can control. Love others. Elevate society. Lift people up. Show them truth. Show them facts. Don't just read off these false narratives, these headlines, and not give an explanation behind it. And you're taking advantage of the whole thing that you're preaching against. Like Dinesh said, are you willing to unenroll, to go to that registrar's office and say, like, I'm Amherst, I'm gone. Like, I can't stand for this. No, you're not. So you're taking advantage of the same thing that you're saying other people shouldn't. Hypocritical definition right here. Great congressman, all talk, saying nothing. Come on.
Yes. Well,
my apologies for I had to.
The core of the American system, this will actually answers your question directly, is that what do we do about the conquest ethic of the past? And here there are two options. There are two options. One option is we establish equal rights under the law. That was the solution of the civil rights movement. That we have had race-based discrimination. We've had racial hierarchy. Let's stop. Let's treat people according to the color of this, according to the content of their character.
Amen.
Equal rights under the law. Equal rights under the law. The other option, which you're defending, is you could essentially call it, let's correct for history. Let's correct for history.
It'll never work.
Let's try to find out who are the people in possession of stolen goods, and let's return it. Now, the first thing I'm trying to say is, this is a hugely controversial principle because it actually involves wrecking the freedom of a free society. You basically have to put it frankly, if we were to carry that out, go into people's homes and take their stuff. Take their furniture, take their cars. You don't seem to have even the guts to do that.
Nope.
You don't have the moral self-confidence to do it yourself. It may be, if I am advocating a rule of social justice and I'm advocating it for the whole society, before I persuade everybody else, let's say I'm a Christian and I believe everybody should give 10% of their wealth to help the poor. And I go, you know what? The Bible says this, the Bible says that, everybody should give 10% of their wealth to help the poor. And somebody says, Dinesh, are you giving 10% of your wealth? And I'm like, actually, no, but I did do some tutoring. And you go, wait a minute, aren't you advocating, aren't you saying that there is a moral duty to do this? Why don't you do it? Before you convince us, you do it. And you're like, I don't think I should do it because society is extremely complex, and I don't think I should do it unless everybody else does it. No. Either you believe in it and you do it. Once you've done it, you might impress us. And then you might convince the rest of us that our wealth is also ill-gotten. But you can't do it. And I'm not trying to indict everybody of hypocrisy, only you. Because you're the one who said, I'm the beneficiary of illicit privilege. So you're a really good starting point, because I'm asking, if you're in possession of stolen goods, why aren't you willing to return them? So that's why fundamentally I see your charity. You know, during the Civil War, there was a guy who goes, I'm very happy to give, I've given 3 cousins to the war and I'm ready to sacrifice my wife's brother. That's basically your ethics. You're willing to have social justice if other people pay, but you're not willing to pay.
You don't want to sacrifice anything.
So that's the problem. And that's the problem with the progressivism that marches behind social justice while protecting its own privileges. You know how you said, we all have to survive. Really? You have to be at Amherst to survive? You don't have to be at Amherst to survive. You have to be at Amherst to benefit. You have to be at Amherst because you're getting opportunities at this college that many other people are not getting. So if you say you believe in equal opportunity, you're a hypocrite because you are taking advantage of opportunities unavailable to others. But for you, this hypocrisy is fully justified because you are militating on behalf of the poor.
Yep.
But if you are against privilege, this college is privilege. So there's a glaring hypocrisy, and you will never turn your moral mirror on yourself to say, what am I doing about it? That's my point. For you, society should act before you do to enforce your moral code. Let's take a couple more questions.
Well, Dinesh just, y'all remember the show Yo Mama, or just those jokes like he got burned, he got roasted, he got toasted. Absolutely annihilated that student. But he did it with facts, with logic, and with love behind it because he's trying to paint the picture so the student understands, like, listen, you're arguing for something that you are currently taking advantage of, full advantage of, and if you're not willing to step up to the plate and sacrifice what you're arguing against, then don't tell me what I'm supposed to do. Don't tell somebody else what they're supposed to do. If you can't get up behind it and be a leader, not a follower, you're quick to take advantage of all these luxuries, all these amenities that home of the free because of the brave. All these freedoms were fought for. All these freedoms have been died for. And I acknowledge that. Thank you to all our brave men and women out there fighting on the front lines who've lost someone and allowed these freedoms that we've had, although flawed past, we all got them. We all got a pass. Everybody's like opinions. Everybody's got a few of them like elbows. We all got a few. It is what it is, man. We've tried to make right, we correct, and we will always continue that cycle to get better, to progress, and we have. But don't tell somebody how they're supposed to live and the things that they need to go do when you are part of the same society, the same problem that you're addressing, and you're not willing to sacrifice any of your comforts or conveniences. I believe that God works it all together for the good, and that plays out time and time again. There's been evil in the world, Satan's been lurking, there's been darkness, but the light always overcomes it. It's real simple. Jesus died on the cross for our sins and our shortcomings. This is my belief. Again, you may believe in something different. This is what I believe wholeheartedly. All my eggs are in that basket. One of us is going to be wrong, so we'll find out at the end of the day when one of us is facing judgment, and you know, that's how it plays out. It's real simple. But I believe that Jesus died on the cross for my sins, for my shortcomings, just as he did for you and yours. And when we face him, we find salvation, and through all the trials and tribulations of life, we work to get better. We find that peace, we find that love, we share it, we lift each other up. Life keeps moving. We're only here once. None of the materialistic things, none of the lustful, sin-filled things, none of those things you could take with you. You can't strap a U-Haul to a hearse. You should stop looking back because you can't change it. 5 seconds, 5 minutes, 5 years ago, it has no bearing on how you operate today and moving forward. 5 years ago, I was a scumbag of a man, hadn't found the Lord, hadn't found my wife, acting off fleshly sexual temptation and sin and pornography and all sorts of nonsense. I was a scumbag. You know what I'm saying? I was saved. And now I'm walking the best I can in my evangelical ways, trying to spread the word. Am I perfect? Absolutely not. Have I sinned? Will I sin? 100%. I share these things with y'all to let you know you're human, I'm human. We can't change the past, but right now we can be good to each other. We can show each other truth. We can show each other love and lift up the world. That's my intentions. Dinesh D'Souza, my introduction to him, that was brilliant. Again, I've watched Jordan Peterson. I've watched Ben Shapiro. I've watched Larry Elder and people of that stature and those legends. And he just decimated this student. Absolute, no holds barred. And I loved it. I loved it because it was based in love and logic. Not just talking blanket statements. Love and logic, educated them and said, you know what? You're being a hypocrite in this situation. This social justice warrior stance that you're trying to take hold of and take to light, guess what? You're doing the same thing that you're preaching against. So don't be a hypocrite. It's really that simple. Don't be a hypocrite. Stand up for what you believe and stand true to it. Stand firm to it. Hold on to it and move forward. Be a good person. It's real simple. I love y'all. I'm praying for you. Let me know your thoughts down below. Again, we may differ in our religious views, political views, whatever it is, but we can still be good to each other. We can still have discussion and conversation. But if you're going to say something to me in my comment section, include some facts in there, include some logic. Now, again, facts are going to be relative to the person. I understand that as well in some situations, but a lot of times, common sense, if you just bring that, which isn't very common anymore, you're gonna be okay. You're gonna be able to, you know, cope through these day-to-day debates and discussions and controversial issues. I didn't think this was that controversial. I think reparations and all that is foolishness, because I wasn't part of the slavery. My grandparents were like, I'm not asking for nothing. I don't want a handout. I want to work for what I got. I want to work for what I want, and I want to spread love and lift each other up. Real simple. I don't care about any of that past stuff. I'm worried about right now and mine. Not looking at the next man or woman's plate unless I'm trying to contribute to it and help them out. I'm not going to take from somebody else what ain't mine, or what I'm not willing to sacrifice. Subscribe, like, notification bell if you're new. If you want to support, all my links are in the description. If not, I appreciate you for showing up. For right now, though, Godspeed. I'm gone.